All of my policies are aimed to do one of three things: either steal, kill, or destroy.
Okay, so this is
Then
a
it's not.
interview with a it's some guy in a mask, but they are clearly trying to make it like they're actually interviewing the devil or the Antichrist. I think is more what they're that's what the video says is the Antichrist, right? And so it's pretty absurd. I mean, just any way you swing it. This is from let's see here. Uh, Let me take a look. This is from okay, the Saint AVS. I don't know what that is, but it's clear that this guy stole this interview from somebody else, right? Because this guy, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's the same person doing it because he keeps interrupting the um the video, right? And acting like he's interviewing. It's a whole thing. I'll show you. I will get there. It's really fucking weird. This whole thing is just really strange. So uh, let's uh, let's take a look at this.
To watch it all through, you will have a great idea of how the Antichrist mind works, how the mind of the Antichrist works, the mind of Satan. But before you watch the interview, remember what we are told in 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And also remember what Christ told us directly. I give you authority to trample upon serpents and scorpions
So
Strengthen you.
then,
Do not have fear. And
so
remember,
then, why are they so afraid of it then? Like, why they're just they're always freaking out about like I mean, there's always a satanic panic going on, you know. But then but they're like, I believe every word of the Bible, and it's like, but the Bible says they literally can't do anything to you. I don't even understand this whole narrative because it's like on the one hand, the people they're always saying, hey, the devil won't mess with you if you're already an atheist and stuff, right? Like he doesn't care about you because you're an atheist. So it's his job's sort of done, right? But then at the same token, they'll turn around and say, but the devil can't do anything to Christians either. You know what I mean? So it's like, so what does he do? Does he do nothing? Like what's the point? If you don't need to be afraid of him because he has literally zero power over you, then why and he's already done going after the atheist, then what is the big deal then? His hands are completely tied. It's so weird.
the authority that you have. First, here it is.
I usually like to fly under the radar, but I figured since I'm already on the campaign trail, why not?
So now tell the people.
Oh, that's easy.
Okay,
Every
so you
generation.
can see he's like cutting in, right, to interview this guy. They clearly got some like Halloween mask, some movie like 80s movie level uh devil mask or whatever, and somebody's like, hey man, we should bring this to church and go in that little studio we got in the back and make a video for the service. Because I don't know if you're how familiar you are with like going to church and stuff like that, but there's usually this awkward kind of moment when the band has to kind of get all their stuff off the stage, right? And it's before the pastor comes out to talk, right? And so in that little internum, like they have that a lot of times they'll play these stupid videos that they make in the back. A lot of times it's something funny. Like that's almost what this seems like. But it's I don't know, it's too weird to be funny. So, but there are like they seem like they're trying to be funny at times, but it's just like this is too weird. Um, but a lot of times it's funny, or they'll do like deconversions or deconversion. They'll do like conversion stories. They'll like talk about like what led them to Jesus and all that sort of stuff. So that's clearly what this is. Just so you got an idea. But it's really super weird.
Is the same. I appeal to their lust and ego. I offer of sex, wealth, and fame a person could want. Do as thou wilt has been my campaign slogan from the start. And my campaign platform hasn't changed either. I run on the same three issues every generation: lust of the flesh,
Lust of the flesh.
lust.
Making
Like, aren't those two things different? Like the exact same thing? Aren't the flesh lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh? Aren't you lusting after someone's flesh with your eyes? Like, okay, man, whatever.
easy for people to understand.
Come on now.
Come
What do I
on
mean?
now.
Isn't it obvious?
Isn't it
I
obvious?
just use humans' own innate physical desires against them. And since sexual desire seems to be the most powerful, I usually run with that. Now, I didn't
Yeah, it's almost as if it's a natural craving in order to keep the species going or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy. I know.
create sex, but I must say I've done a superb job at perverting it.
What is the
Take
right way to
pornography,
do
for
it?
example.
Like sex just in general is kind of gross, man. Just like, it's very it's lots of fluids going on there. It's just gross. Like the whole thing, like, but so he's talking about like perverting it. It's weird that they're like, hey, we have the right kind of sex and the wrong kind of sex over here, you know. What the right kind of sex is, what the most boring shit you could do possible. What, and then everybody that's not attracted to like the standardized boring shit, they are the ones that are, that's perverted. They're perverted just for being attracted to someone that's not, the majority or whatever.
Example. Well, you should know a lot about this one, Ivan. Weren't you addicted to porn?
Now, who is this guy?
This interview is about you, not about me. Can we get back on subject?
No.
See that. So this guy is he he's clearly taking someone else's interview from a different church and then putting it in, because that guy's voice did not sound anything like the dude that is breaking this whole thing down. So I don't know what the hell is happening here, but this other person, the person who runs this actual channel, must have found this and was like, "Ooh, I can rip this off and like and use it for my channel. How about that?"
Now, where
Jeez.
was I? Oh yeah. What I do is gradually get some, and once lust
Yeah,
is at its full,
real quick, porn addiction is not really a thing. Okay, I mean, unless you define addiction as just negative behavioral loops, and even then, it's usually only a negative behavioral loop if somebody says that it's getting in the way of their life, um, which tends to not be the case, right? People tend to not like, oh, like they don't miss work, because they're hungover from all the masturbation. You know what I'm saying? Like that, this doesn't make sense. That's just not something that really happens, right? But what does happen is these, church people like make the people in their church feel bad for just looking at any porn. And so then when they are like, have that natural inclination to go back to watch some porn, they're like, oh man, I'm doing something I don't want to be doing because I got all this shame. I don't know where this shame comes from. It's almost like it's like thrown on me once a week where I go on purpose to then get the shame and then also have the shame removed by begging for forgiveness. It's almost like it's a cycle that's being created here. Anyway, and that's usually what people are talking about when they're talking about porn addiction. It's not actually addiction. It's just somebody feeling bad about a thing that they do, but they're being made to feel bad about it at church and stuff. Because as far as like psychology it goes and whatnot, and it's scholarship. Like if you like look at the like what the actual science says and what the doctors are saying about it, the scientists, they're saying it usually is only the case that people believe that they are addicted when they have some kind of shame attached to porn, right? That's the only time people ever report being addicted, which means they probably aren't addicted. They're just probably very shameful. Like they're feeling a lot of shame for, and that could be for multiple reasons, but a big reason for that is religion in the church.
Work and he and she could no longer restrain themselves, they usually look to act out their fantasies on someone. And sometimes that someone is a child.
Oh God,
Now,
what the
my
fuck?
plan plays out perfectly.
See, how is this?
That
Hold
abuse
on. How do you go from like a joke to that? Like, how does that happen? You know, they're like, oh, we're gonna laugh about this, and then all of a sudden now we get into this subject matter. Are you fucking kidding? What the hell, man? How like talk about like, you know, not like just you can't come out of left field with that. I think we think we're doing like a comedy video. He's like coughing. Oh, this is about you, not me. All right, now let's talk about children. What no, don't talk about that. Jesus.
child will eventually turn to a life of promiscuity and perversion themselves, allowing you to
Oh, I
continue.
skipped a little bit.
Take pornography, for example. They usually look to act out their fantasies on someone. And sometimes that someone is a child.
Jesus.
Now, my plan plays out perfectly. That abused child will eventually turn to a life of promiscuity and perversion themselves, allowing me to continue my vicious cycle. And here's the kicker. Many of those abused girls end up right in the porn industry. Now, how's that for irony?
You also mentioned
Jesus
the lust
Christ.
of the eyes. Explain that a little further. How you use
It's just sort of a commentary on trauma. I mean, that tends to be what happens. You know, trauma leads to more trauma. Like people who have been traumatized by their parents or by somebody, like they tend to then grow up to, you know, if they don't ever address it, they will end up, you know, traumatizing other people. A lot of times, that's how it goes. You know, trauma breeds trauma. But yeah, it's nothing to do with the devil or anything. In fact, the actual irony here is that the most we have seen of people doing this kind of evil, disgusting behavior comes from the church. Okay, comes from. I mean, the Catholic Church is notorious for it, and not only notorious for that, but they're notorious for trying to cover it up, you know, and not answer for it. And governments and different institutions think it's so unsavory to hold the church responsible because they're like, how will that look if we are, you know, just arresting members of the church? So they just don't do anything. They're like, oh, they can handle it internally, you know, and then internally they usually just will move the priest to another place where he has a ton of access to kids and cover. You know, it's disgusting.
that against people?
Humans are never satisfied. You always crave more. Bigger house, bigger car, more money, more power. The list goes on and on. I just take their natural ambitious desire, pervert it, and use it against them for their own destruction. My plan is to allow them to never be content. As long as I can keep them craving what others have, I can depend on them to argue, fight, even kill to get it.
So I don't understand. So they're saying that you're not supposed to. So this is like coveting. You're not supposed to covet, right? Which is kind of ironic since you know, and we'll get more into it the further we go along. But this is obviously a very conservative narrative that is kind of driving this video, and it's kind of funny because isn't that just capitalism? Isn't coveting just all of capitalism? Isn't that the whole point of literally our entire country? You know, the system that keeps it moving is all about I want what they've got. You know, that's and they all support that system. You know, like, oh yeah, you can't talk shit about capitalism ever. You know, it's completely fair. There's never been anything wrong with it. It's always the best possible system there can possibly be. You know, but then they'll turn around and be like, but don't covet. You know, oh my gosh.
Humans are so easily tricked into jealousy. And you know what they say jealousy is as cruel as the grave.
Yes, I have heard that before.
What?
Now explain how you use
Jealousy is as cruel as the grave? Okay, I've never. What does that even mean?
the pride
Okay.
of life. How do you use that
Pride
to
of
get people to destroy themselves?
Aren't they like
Humans
going
are always
backwards? It seems like he's already talking about stuff that then they ask him about, like they're messing up, like they're going backwards. He was just talking about being prideful and people never being satisfied and always, wanting to. And he's like, "What about the pride thing, though? Like, how do you go this? How are you this backwards? Like, what are you doing?"
on a quest for
Weird.
knowledge. I tricked the first humans to seek carnal knowledge over godly wisdom, and it's worked like a charm every generation since. With more knowledge. And
So-
pride is
So, God wants you to be stupid, and the devil wants you to be smart. So, don't be smart. This isn't manipulative at all.
my specialty. And since humans don't like to keep God in their wisdom, I'm able to seduce them with all types of things to help puff up their ego. Lately, fame has been my biggest seller. Who doesn't like attention and feeling more important than the next person? Once I make them
Again,
famous,
capitalism.
I can really use them to promote my agenda. With their help, I've convinced half of the world to not only accept.
I mean, I guess like for them, I guess it could be separate a little bit, but famous is sort of like in line with just being successful, right? If you're successful at whatever it is you are into that you're doing, you tend to be famous, right? That's just how that tends to work. Even if you're a fucking professor or something, if you're a successful professor, people know who you are. You've written books. You have fame. So again, this is just capitalism. Like, that he's saying is bad, yet they support that system completely, with zero complaint about it.
Accept sin, but to celebrate it.
So now tell the people
Oh,
what your main goals are. What exactly are you trying to achieve?
All of my policies are aimed to do one of three things: either steal, kill, or destroy. And if it's
Steal
not doing
what?
one or all three of those things, then it's not in my agenda and I'm not promoting it.
Steal what? Like, and kill who? Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you know how much death religion has been responsible for throughout throughout history? Most of the wars, up until what, like maybe a century ago, not even, were all because of religion for the most part. It's insane. So, like, so was that your agenda? I guess I don't know.
So explain how you target different ethnicities, how you use this
Oh.
against human beings.
Yeah, we're about to get pretty racist
Of
here.
course, I'd be a
Just-
fool not to.
So trigger
Take
warning.
black people, for instance.
Here we go. All right.
As a people, they're super spiritual. So I can't really convince them that there is no God. What I have been able to do as of late is convince them that he's not the God of
Okay, first of all, there is an organization called Black Non-Believers. So that's just a thing. That's real. So just so you know.
the Bible. Now, I've been real successful at promoting Black consciousness and Islam in their communities.
I'm so happy you mentioned black.
So the devil is it causes people to hope this is not it's still working. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, so the devil causes people to believe in Islam, in other words. Jeez.
Black people. It seems as if we've been at the very top of your agenda for quite some time. Why is that?
A few reasons.
See that guy is doing the actual interview, right? And then the other guy, whoever this person is that's talking that won't show himself, stole this. They took it from somebody, right? Like I don't, it just seems weird. And the guy that it sound like, and I don't know, I didn't do any investigating, but it sounds like it's a white guy that sold this interview, and so I don't know. It just that makes me very uncomfortable, and it's almost like, well, black people are saying it because clearly these two people are black. So that makes it okay that I'm showing it in my video. That's not racist at all. Jesus.
Black people help me reach the masses. Now, as you know, I was over music in heaven. My beats were so dope, I got over a third of the angels to follow me. And once I got here to the earth,
because it's dope beats, man. That's what
I needed artists and entertainers to help me promote my message here. Who better than black people? Black people possess all the natural rhythm and music ability that I need. And it's easy for me to influence them with money since so many of them grew up without it. Another reason I talk.
And that's not, that that has nothing to do with anything. That's not, so forget about all the injustice. The reason that so many, according to this person, like grew up without money, is because they used to be property, like just like a little over a century ago. Like, holy shit. But let's not talk about that though.
Because they're strong mentally and physically. If Black men were to ever find their identity in Christ, I'd be in trouble. So I try my best to destroy the Black family structure and keep Black men away from his family.
See, okay. Oh my God. So it's nothing to do with poverty, and all these other, and just people trying to arrest them for, nonsense all the time, and all these other ways that the family unit gets ripped apart. Because like I think they said like 90% of all relationship fights are like over money. Which makes perfect sense. That's not anything that should surprise anybody. But so it just all that is nothing. That none of that's it's just because the devil. It's the devil just making these guys because they're not Christianing hard enough. They're not Jesusing. If they would just Jesus harder, then they would still have families right now. You know what I'm saying?
And the church. Drugs and incarceration are a couple of my more popular means. Without the head of the household present, I can become the head and influence the children without too much resistance.
So you
hungering thing about the family unit and how sacred it is and all this stuff. And so if Satan can, break the patriarchy, I guess, then he can, influence the children, I guess, to not be as Christian. This is delusional fear land. You know what I mean? That's where we're in right now.
You mean to tell me that your policies are intentionally racist against Black people?
Racist? This has got to be the best law I've ever come up with. I can't believe that humans still believe they're different races.
Okay. Yeah, technically we have a human race, and that's true, for sure. But the social construct that is race has been going on clearly for a long time, seeing as how, Black people were owned by by white people 150 years ago. So I'm just saying, all right, look, it is a thing. We can act like it's not a thing, but it's a thing, okay? Unfortunately, it is.
But to answer your question, yes. It has always been my policy to target and isolate a group of people. And out of all my strategies, this skin color thing has worked the best. I definitely want to keep white people and Black people separated.
Why are they? Hold on. What? That's not me, y'all. They are like on next to a fucking highway or something. I don't know what's happening here. But I mean, I don't know what's going on, but they're clearly like right next to a busy fucking road or something, because they keep on hearing these like cars driving by. Like, okay. But I guess they spent all of the soundproofing money on the mask. That's what happened there.
As long as I can keep Black people bitter and white people offended, I'm good. Hopefully Black people will never forgive. That way I can continue
Oh
to
my
use
God. Gross. Okay. So they're basically doing the whole, Black people need to just forgive and not worry about, which, a lot, which basically is saying that like, don't even acknowledge the past. The past doesn't affect the present at all, I guess, and everybody just needs to shut up and get over it, and if cops kill somebody, hey, just that's how the way things go, a couple bad apples, I guess. Like, it's insane, because, this is the devil trying to, saying that he is tricking people into not forgiving. Oh my God. Like, it's just so gross. Like,
So how exactly do you encourage Black on Black crime? Is there a specific technique that you have or plan that you
And listen, this is so clearly a white guy that like came in and took the video. And so he's like, oh, cool. This Black church is making a video that is pretty racist against Black people. I can use that. Let me just take it. And Jesus, how gross, man. What
you
the
have in
fuck
mind?
is wrong with these people?
Well, as great as my administration is, we can't take all the credit for this. Black people help us tremendously. By aborting so many of their babies, they allow us to bring death to their communities.
Jeez.
As the Bible says, they sow the wind and reap a whirlwind.
Okay. So now we're on to the abortion thing. Yeah, the abortion tends to take place when people can't fucking afford to take care of children. You know, that tends to be some, and when they don't have access to birth, like good education, first of all, access to birth control is another one, and you know, and just having money in general. Those, if you don't have access to those things, you're gonna have more abortions. It's just gonna be that is just a thing, and that almost needs to happen because, like, can you imagine how bad the foster system would be if, you know, nobody was able to have any abortions in those impoverished areas and stuff? Yeah, it'd be out of control, you know. So yeah, but it's crazy. He's saying, oh no, you got to have those kids. You have to be even more desperate than you already are if you're in poverty. Like,
Now, this one's obvious, but do you receive any pushback from anybody? And if yes, who exactly? What group of people?
One group in particular try to.
the Satanists are like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? Okay. You're not even doing it right. Okay. You don't look. this is straw man. You're straw manning us, man.
Oppose every policy I try to implement. I would be so much further along in my agenda if it wasn't for them. Those pesky, born again Jesus followers. They're a real thorn in my side.
Right.
Every generation they come together and try to dismantle one of my signature policies. Now
Wait, they're making it like so he's a politician now? Like, what has happened? Like, I don't because he keeps on like referring to like his administration and stuff. Never like alluded to it really throughout, but just that, you know, he's just a demon and he's in an interview, right? And so I assumed he was talking about just doing his you know, I don't even know how he influences people, but he's trying to make it like it's a political thing. It's just so weird.
Convinced half of the world that Jesus didn't exist and the other half that he wasn't divine. But
What?
I can't seem
Hold
to
on.
convince them.
Wait, who is that Jesus never existed? Dude, you know how small the mythicist community is? You know, it's godless engineer. That's it. That is the entire that is the entire mythicist community. No, I'm obviously kidding. I think Doc. I was gonna say Doc Pearson. Sorry, man. Are you a mythicist? But no, what Dan Dennett I think is a mythicist. I think Kevin from Left at the Valley. I'm not, you know, I don't know. But it's not popular. It's not half the fucking population. Jesus.
They seem hell bent on telling everybody about him and spreading his message. Some of them believe he's coming to unseat me in this generation. Crazy, huh?
That is crazy. It absolutely is crazy.
Really
Yep.
mess with my legacy.
Now, explain how it makes you feel when people say Christ is coming back. How exactly does that make you feel?
Y'all been saying that for centuries. I just use it as motivation to get as much of my agenda pushed through and deceive as many people as possible before he returns.
So
I think I've done pretty well.
wait, hold on. Didn't that just feel like he's like contradicting himself like within a sentence? He's like, well, you guys have been saying that forever. That's not true. That's not real. And they're just like, oh shit, we probably shouldn't say that because then that's too good of an argument for it being actually true. So let's just go. So move on. Oh yeah, but he's definitely coming, and that's why I'm trying so hard to get as many people into hell before. Come on, man. Jeez.
My record speaks for itself. About 150,000 people die each day. And
Yeah. So yeah, Doc Pearson says, I don't know. Mythicism, SP could be true. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I tend to just go with whatever the consensus of scholarship is, since I'm not a Bible scholar. And but you know, it does make sense though that like most of the people that are Bible scholars are like Christians, you know, so they would obviously not be mythicists, right? But anyway, so I don't know. I'm sort of agnostic on the whole thing. I could see it how it could be either way, but you know, I don't really hold up. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't really give a shit. Anyway,
And most of them don't know Jesus.
150,000 people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people
So
on the planet,
Christ
man.
has already defeated you, and you're going to get thrown into the lake of fire. State your last words.
Yes. I'd like to take this moment and give a special thank you to two groups of people. First, I want to say thank you to all my followers. You are the hands and feet of my administration, and we could do nothing without you. Keep up the good work, spread my message. And second, I'd like to say thank you to the divided church. I love the way you argue and use your passions to fight amongst each other.
Wait, so who was the first
Keep up
one?
the good-
That was this atheist or Satanist or something? Who was that? Like his followers? I thought like we all followed him without knowing it, you know.
good work. There's really no rush to tell people about Jesus. You all have plenty of
Doesn't it
time.
seem like he keeps forgetting where he's at when he says Jesus? He's like, you can just keep on telling people about Jesus.
So, family,
Losing
I
the
pray you
thread.
enjoyed that interview. Now, I want to touch on a few things. The people who are most
fuck is
easily
happening?
deceived are the people who say, oh, they don't even believe in the devil anyway, or they reject God completely. It says clearly in the word that the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. They don't believe in Yahweh, the creator.
It's so wow. The book that wants you to believe that a God exists also says that you're a fool if you don't. This is just too crazy. I mean, how it's got to be just a massive coincidence. That's all. That is.
And therefore, they are so easily deceived because they willingly hand themselves over to sin willfully, because
What
they
is
would rather
this?
indulge in the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of
What are drugs like the main? Are drugs like all the sins there? You know, that's the sins of the flesh, I guess.
life than to actually come into the
And
knowledge of
dancing.
truth. And the second group of people who are most
Drugs and
easily
dancing.
deceived are those who reject Christ was crucified, his blood was shed, and he rose on the third day, because they think that they can earn their way to heaven. You will notice that a lot of people, they think that their good deeds and their bad deeds
So I love it when they do this, because it just is. It's basically a long explanation of, hey, you can be a shithead. You know, you can be a shitty shithead. And that's, and you can still get to heaven because all you need is forgiveness. It's not about works or being a good person or anything. In fact, those people that think they're good people, they're going to hell the hardest.
going to get weighed up on the day of judgment. But that is not how it works. People who think they are good are not good. There is no such thing as a good person according to the Bible. Everybody has
Jesus.
sinned and fallen short of the glory of
Then what's the fucking point? I never understand that. One thing, then you're this evil person, and everybody's done at least one thing, so everybody's an evil person. It's like, okay, but we actually have to live in the real world, man. Like, we have to live in a place where being a better person than not is actually required for our fucking society to function. So maybe you should encourage people in that. I don't know. I'm just saying. He's like, nah, just say the magic words and you're good, dude. Just say the magic words, read the book, bro, and that's it.
God. So people are self-deceived when they say, oh, but what about good people?
What is this?
You see, people
got the wizard over here. Like, oh, is that supposed to be Satan? Oh, I think that's supposed to be the Satan part where he's like tempting Jesus, because this looks like it's Jesus over here, right? And then this is Satan, but it looks a lot like a beardless Gandalf. I'm just saying, I don't know, or a Jedi with a staff. I don't know.
people think there are good people, and that is another very deep deception. There is only one way to heaven, because there is only one sinless being, and that is the Creator himself, the Word who became flesh.
The one who created everything has to have bloodshed in order to not torture everybody for eternity. It's like the one God that's in control of literally everything. The one that designed the rules is the one that has to, that needs people to die and have blood, or animals, I guess, at first to die, and then himself to die, because he's like, shit, I shouldn't have set up that system. That was, if I could do it all over, if only I was all powerful, shit,
Himself.
Christ.
And he died, his blood was shed, and he rose on the third day. He never sinned, not even once. He lived life perfectly and fulfilled the entire law. And whoever believes on him shall not perish but
The law that he says not to follow like a bunch of times. It's like, you've heard it written, but I say,
have everlasting life. You are saved by grace through faith and not of your own works, so that nobody can
you can
boast.
be an asshole.
And those who are in him, he said, I give you authority.
Until you get to reading James, and then James is like, faith without works is dead. So it's again more of this self-eating logic that they got going on here through their holy book.
To trample upon serpents and upon scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and none at all shall harm you. So when you are in
That's
Christ, then you
is sinless. What kind of mind fuck is that shit?
Authority. When you are in Christ, then you are made righteous. If you are outside of Christ, you are condemned already. It says in John 3 very clearly, for God so loved the world that he gave his own. This is the word who became flesh, Jesus Christ, Yahushua HaMashiach, that he gave his only begotten son.
What was that word? I'm not familiar with that. What do you say? Yoshua HaMashiach? I don't
That whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And it goes on to say, but those who do not believe are condemned already.
I love this is a cross hanging out somewhere. People I can just come up to it, and kneel. Like, oh, what a beautiful torture device, Look, it's still got some of the fresh blood on it. This is so beautiful. What a beautiful symbol of life and love.
And this is the part that a lot of people don't like to read. It is very clear that people will be condemned. Those who have not believed are condemned already because
you can't show a goat, man. That's evil. Didn't you know a goat represents the devil and Satan? It's what happened to the interview too. Like, by the way, like where the fuck, what, how did this happen? Jesus.
They have not believed on the name of the only begotten Son of God, and that is Yahushua HaMashiach.
So I wonder if he was like, this is a great video with the Antichrist, like an interview with the Antichrist and stuff. But they don't really do the Jesus message. Like, I want the salvation message the right way. Let me just steal their interview and then use it to then say my stupid message at the very end. And
Jesus Christ. If you go to Romans 10:9, you will find out how to be saved, who is saved.
What is like, what the fuck? Why are we looking at blood on a page, like on a Bible? Like, they're so obsessed with blood and gore and all this shit. Like, it's just so fucking weird. And then yet they like turn around and go, but that represents love.
To 1 Corinthians 15 and study the gospel for yourself. I encourage every one of you to read the book of John for yourself. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels, okay? These are eyewitness accounts. People will try to come against it and deny it. But if you read 1 John, you will find out that he witnessed this with his own.
It was 1 John 1:1. Okay. And I'm pretty sure that whoever wrote 1 John was not the same John that wrote. Anyway, they're all different people that wrote all of these books. And a lot of them, the stuff was just added later. The ending of Mark, like the last chapter of Mark, was completely added by scribes. This is not debated at all amongst Bible scholars, Christian or not, doesn't matter. It is not debated at all. It is a fact, a historical fact, that the last chapter of Mark was added. So their whole thing was added by a fucking scribe.
Eyes, okay? I love you very much, family. I pray you have a beautiful day.
I love you too, buddy.
Remember the deception.
I love you too. That's sweet. Thank you. And I love all you people out there. So thanks for watching. And next time we'll watch something else. But this one was wild. I had to show it to you because it was just too funny. So stay logical, loving, skeptical, and compassionate.